All right, first rule of live chat. Do me a favor and click mute. If you're not already muted, click mute, please. Yes, thank you. So make sure your laptop is on mute. Thank you. So we're going to go over all the problems, all the types of problems that you're going to see on the test tomorrow. Make sure that as we work the problem out, that you follow along. And these are your papers. You can write on them. So make sure that you show all the work that you can. Now, we're on this problem about, on number 9, the table shows Richard's monthly budget. Does everybody see number 9? Yes? So it says this table shows Richard's monthly budget. He earns $1,200 a month. Which statement is not supported by the information in this table? These type of problems, you have no choice but to evaluate each answer choice to see if they're true or false. Everybody should be at the live. I shouldn't see you touching your computers. The screen should just be on, and you should just be watching, following along. So, we have to go through and evaluate each answer choice and get rid of the ones that don't make sense. So first, it says Richard spends 50% of his monthly budget on clothes and food. What's another way of saying 50%? Half, right? So this is saying that he spends 50% or half of his monthly budget on clothes and food. We know that his budget is $1,200 a month. What would 50% or half of $1,200 be? It would be $600. So does he spend $600 on clothes and food? Let's check. Clothes and food. If we were to add 425 and 175, would that equal 600? Yes. So this one does support the information in the table. They want to know which one does not. We'll get rid of that one. Then it says Richard spends 10% of his monthly budget on college savings. Now we're going to have to find out how much money he uses for college savings. Here's a little trick. If you understand this, then use it. If not, then I'll show you mathematically how we solve this. 10% of anything just means that you divide it by 10. So I could look, if I divide 1,200 by 10, it would give me 120. Again, 10% of 1,200, his monthly budget. If I divided his monthly budget 1,200 by 10, it would give me 120. But I'm going to show you the math and how we would do that. So whenever we're calculating a percent of a number, we've been working on that the past couple days. We're talking about 10%. 10% of what number? How much was his budget? $1,200. We said that word of mathematically tells us to do what? Multiply. So this means 10% times 1,200. Can we multiply a percent as is? No. What do we have to do to it first? Dr. Pepper. Change it to a percent. If you like changing it to a fraction and you know how to do that, then do that. I'm going to show you this way because I feel like it's easier, but you go with whatever works for you. So if I use Dr. Pepper, we're going from percent to decimal, 2 spaces to the left, 1, 2 spaces to the left. So we end up with 0.1. If I multiply 1,200 times 0.1, 0 times 1 is 0, 0 times 1, 0, 12 times 1 is 2. I'm sorry, 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1. And then we have one decimal place that we need to make sure is in our answer. Oops, sorry guys. I'm a little off frame right now. All right, so I had one decimal place that I need to account for in my answer. This ends up being $120. Is that true? Yes, right? So we're going to get rid of B because B was supported by the information, right? And they're looking for the not. C, Richard spends 40% of his monthly budget on his cell phone. Well, we're going to have to figure out what 40% of his monthly budget is. First of all, what's his monthly budget? $1,200. So we're trying to find 40%. 40% of what? 40% of 1200. We say that word of means to do what?
Multiply.
Multiply. Before we can multiply a percent, what do we need to do to it? Dr. Pepper. Convert it into a decimal. We're going to go 1, 2 spaces to the left. We end up with 0.4 times 1200. If I do 1200 times 0.4, 0.0084, we had one decimal place, so our answer has to have one decimal place, equals 480. Now let's look. How much did he spend on his cell phone? Well, look at the budget. How much does the budget say he spent on his cell phone? 80. Now the answer choice C is saying that he spends 40%. We just found 40% of his budget. How much was 40% of his budget? 480. So was this one true?
No.
So this is the one that is not supported. So the answer here is C. So again, we had to go through each answer choice and evaluate it to see if it was true. Is it not printed yet? No? Just have a seat, please, for now. Thank you for your help. Those people who didn't have 2 papers, work off of your neighbors that have the other paper. I apologize. I don't know what happened. I feel like somebody has double the papers and is not aware of it, right? All right. Next up, we're going to be on number 7. Which values of x make this inequality true? So we solve inequalities the same exact way that we solve equations. The only thing different is that now we have an inequality symbol. What's the first thing that we do when we solve an equation or inequality? We have to go reverse Pemdas. So Pemdas usually starts with parentheses. We're going to start off with addition or subtraction. What do we have here, addition or subtraction? Subtraction. So instead of subtraction, how do we undo subtraction? By adding. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides of the inequality. Negative 6 and a positive 6, they cancel each other out or become 0. We end up with 12x is less than. What's 30 plus 6? 36. Right? And then from there, the next step, we have multiplication or division. To undo, what do we have here when we have 12 times x? Well, I just told you. That means 12 times x, it's multiplication. And in order for us to undo it, we have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is? Division. We're going to divide both sides by 12. X is less than 36 divided by 12, which is? 3. You guys are pretty sharp. All right, let's move on to... Now, what I'm going to tell you is, tomorrow, you're going to see an inequality or an equation problem that's going to have decimals in it. Treat it the same exact way. You know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimals? If we add and subtract decimals, we line them up. If we multiply or divide decimals, we just multiply them normally, and we have to count the number of decimal places. Next, which model best represents the equation? Find this problem on your papers, please. It says number 1, but I realize there's more than one number 1. Now, which model best represents the equation? So, if you notice in each one of these problems, most of them show x or anything with the variable x as these rectangles. Does everybody see that? Yes. And then our constant, right? We always talk about the constant is that number that's by itself that doesn't have a variable or that's not being multiplied by anything. We can see that all the constants are being represented as squares. Or the number by itself, this plus 4, this here is always, this is represented by squares in this scenario. So again, the x's are represented by rectangles. the constant, and then the other side of the equal sign is going to be represented by squares. A, B, C, or D? Which one shows two negative x's? A, B, and C. So we can get rid of D. Cross out D. All right, cross out D, because D shows two positive x's. So we're left between A, B, and C. Now, which one shows plus 4? A, B, or C? Well, A and? They both show plus 4, guys. Look. They both, oh, you're right. My bad. So, B actually shows plus 5. So you're right. So A is the only answer choice. Now let's just solve it real quick. How do I solve this? What's the first step? If we're going reverse Pemdas, we have to undo the plus 4. How do we undo a plus 4? Minus 4 on both sides. A negative 1 and a negative 4, they both have the same sign. They would become a negative 5. And then we'd end up with negative 2x equals negative 5. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. X is equal to, when you divide a negative by a negative, it becomes a positive. So negative 5 divided by negative 2 would be positive 2.5. Oh, this is a good one. You're going to have a problem like this. Each team in a relay race has 3 members. The first member runs 5/6 miles. The second member runs 1/12 of a mile. The third member bicycles 7/8 of a mile. What is the total distance each team must cover? Now, what I'm going to tell you to do when you see a problem with fractions like this on the test, just for a second, replace them with whole numbers. So make an easier problem for yourself. Like pretend for a second this was 2 miles. And then pretend for a second that this was 3 miles. And then pretend for a second that this was 4 miles. Now, we're just going to pretend for a second, because if you have an easier problem to understand, then you're not overwhelmed by the fractions. Because a lot of you guys will see fractions and then you'll panic all of a sudden. And you'll shut down and you'll say, I don't know how to do this, right? So if you can pretend for a second that there were whole numbers there, then you get a little bit more confidence and you can do the problem solving part. So here, it wants to know what's the total distance that the team must cover. So if we're just using the whole numbers, we create an easier problem. If the first member runs 2 miles, the second member swims 3 miles, and then the third member bicycles 4 miles, what are we doing here to solve? We're adding, right? What's 2 plus 3 plus 4? 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So now we can see here that we just need to add these fractions. But some of you saw it, and I heard comments, you saw the problem, you were like, oh. As soon as you saw the fractions, you panicked. Create an easier problem, figure out how it is that you're going to solve it, and then go from there. So we know that we're going to add 5/6 plus 1/12 plus 7/8. You can do this 2 ways. You can do the first addition problem here, and then once you get the sum of this, you can add the third one, or you can add all 3 at the same time. I'm going to take this off screen for a second, and we're going to add fractions. Now, we got to find a common denominator between 6, 12, and 8.
24.
Ah, you guys are sharp. It's 24. But for those of you that don't remember how to do that, what you're going to have to do is find common denominators. So you'll list the multiples. You'll list the multiples of 6, 12, 8. So 6, 12, 18, 24. And then you'll do the next one, 12, 24, 36. And then you'll do for 8, the multiples of 8, which are 8, 16, 24. And then you can see, oh, the common denominator here is going to be 24. So we need to create 3 new fractions with a common denominator of 24. What do we need to multiply 6 by in order to get 24? 4. So I'm going to multiply by 4 by 4. We end up with 20 24ths. What do I have to multiply 12 by 4? To get 24. Thank you. By 2. By 2. So we end up with 2 24ths. And then last but not least, this 7 eighths. What do I have to multiply 8 by in order to get 24?
3.
By 3. By 3. So now we're just adding numerators. What's 20 plus 2?
22.
22. What's 22 plus 21?
43.
Equals 43 over 24. Now, I'm going to erase this so we can continue on with the rest of the problem. So right now we have 43 over 24. So from there, how do we convert a improper fraction into a mixed number? Divide. The line in the fraction here means to divide. So 24 goes into 43 one time. And then we have to figure out what's left over between 43 and 24. What's left over between 43 and 24? 19. So your answer should have been D. 1 and 19 24ths. So again, you get a problem with a bunch of fractions. Substitute them with whole numbers just to see how you can solve it. And then plug the fractions back in and see how, and then go from there. All right, which one do we need to get to for sure, for sure? All right. One sec. Right now. What is it?
It was like it wasn't showing the difference. It wasn't letting me.
So reload the paper. All right, next one. The next one is dealing with interest, right? This is a really simple problem. You'll get the formula for this on the test, but the formula for simple interest, write this down, is I, which stands for interest, equals P R T. Now, once you understand what these variables mean, it's really simple. You're just going to plug them in and multiply. Now, the P stands for principal. So write it. P stands for principal. And principal is the amount of the loan. So in this case, the loan is $25,230. That's the principal. Say the principal is the amount of the loan. Thank you. Principal could also be the amount of money that you lend someone, right? So it could either be lending or borrowing. Or it could be the amount of money that you're putting in a savings account. So here the principal is $25,230. The rate is going to be the percentage rate. So where the rate is, where the R is, put percent. And then T stands for what? What do you think? Read the problem and tell me what you think T stands for.
Tax.
There's no tax here. Time. The T stands for time. So, when your parents buy cars or houses, or when they have savings accounts and things that have interest, interest is the cost of borrowing money. So when you take out a loan from the bank, do you think they just give you a loan because you're a nice person? No, they want to make money off of you. And this is how banks make money off of you. They charge you for borrowing their money. So in this case, this bank is charging 6% per year. That's going to be our rate, 6%. And then, what's the time here? What's the life of this loan? Like, what's the time for this loan?
1 year.
1 year, right?
1 year. 1 year.
So we're just going to plug all these numbers in where they go in the formula. So interest equals, what was the principal? Thank you. The principal here is 25,230 times. I'm going to use a parentheses to show multiplication. What is the rate here? What did we say the rate was? The percentage? 6%. Before we can use 6% and multiply it, what do we have to do to it first?
Dr. Pepper.
Convert it to a decimal, Dr. Pepper. So, we're going to go from percent to decimal, 2 spaces to the left. 1, 2 spaces to the left. That becomes 0.06 or 600ths. Now, what I'm going to tell you about this, do Dr. Pepper, convert it. Because the biggest mistake that 6th graders make is they think that 6% is 0.6. It is not. 6% is a decimal is what? If you're paying attention, you'll see that it was 0.06. You should have just done it on your paper while I was telling you. I don't know why I see dry erase markers. We should be writing on the paper. And then what's the time?
1 year.
1 year. So notice what we did. We used the formula, interest equals principal times rate times time, or the number of years. And we just plugged them into a multiplication problem, and then you're just going to multiply. I'm not going to do the multiplication problem because this is something 6th grade that most of you guys should know how to do by now. Right? Again, what does the principal mean? What does the principal mean? It's the amount that you're borrowing or the amount that you're lending. So if this was a savings account, you're lending the bank that money, right? That would be the principal. What is the rate? The percent, right? And then time is going to be the number of year or months. Well, we're going to do this one next because this is a good one. All right, Mike finds a shirt he wants to buy for $25 at 3 different stores. Each of the 3 stores has a different sale on the shirt he wants. Store K offers 1/4 off the price. Store N offers 14% off the price. And Store R offers 4% off the price. Which statement about the sale price of this shirt is true? Now what we're going to do is, before we go and evaluate the answer choices, we're going to actually just figure out what 1/4 off means. And we're going to figure out what 14% off means. And then we're going to figure out how much $4 off would be. And we're going to compare them. So, 1/4 off. We've been doing that the past couple days. Some of you guys just kind of, you just shouted out in the back 25% off, right? Now, if you think about it like this, and I'm going to show you using a fraction strip or a percent diagram, whatever we want to call them. So the shirt's $25. What would 50% of $25 be here? What would half? $12.50. Okay, we're just doing mental math, and then we're going to actually do the actual math. So we're talking about $25 here. We know that 50% of $25 is $12.50. Now, what would 25% be? Well, we know 25% would be half of $12.50. So half of $12.50 is $6.25. So we're going to go with that, and now we're going to actually do some math and then solve the problems. So the way that we figure 1/4 of 25, this is the same thing as tax, the same thing as discounts, sales, everything that we've worked on the past couple days, tip. When we're finding a part of a number, the word of tells us we're going to do what? Multiply. So this means 1/4 times 25. In order to multiply a fraction by a whole number, we have to put a 1 underneath the other number to make it a fraction. And then when we multiply fractions, how do we multiply fractions? No, don't say cross multiply. That means something else. You multiply numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. What's 1 times 25? 25. 4 times 1 is 4. If I divide, this line in the fraction means to divide. 25 divided by 4 equals 6.25. So, if it's 1/4 off, what's the new price? Do the math. If it's 1/4 off and we found that 1/4 was $6.25, what is this going to do to our total price? It's going to reduce our price of $25 by $6.25. So, store K is going to be minus $6.25 off the regular price. Thank you. Next, 14% off. We're going to have to figure out what's 14% of 25. What do we do here? Well, okay, we got to convert that percentage to a decimal. What's 14% as a decimal? 0.14. We should know because Dr. Pepper, we're going from percent to decimal 2 spaces to the left. So now that becomes 14 hundredths or 0.14. We said the word of means what? Multiply. 0.14 or 14 hundredths times 25. Let's see. That would be $3.50. Check my math. 25 times 14. 4, 8, 12. $3.50. Am I good?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mental math. You guys were supposed to learn that in 4th grade. And then this one here, $4 off. Yeah, you were. And the only reason I can tell you that is because I helped my daughter out with her 4th grade homework. And then you guys had to learn all these tricks in 4th grade. Now, store K has the lowest sale price of $6.25. Is that true? I don't know. Let's come back to it. We'll circle it for now. Store N. So first of all, is store K, is the sale price $6.25? Is that how much they're selling the shirt for? No. They try to trick you there. Because the shirt is $6.25 off. It's not being sold for $6.25. B, store N has the lowest sale price of $21.50. Is that true? Well, let's check. Oh, you're right. Because if we find the difference between 25, the regular price, and then store N was $3.50 off, this would be true that it would cost $21.50, but that's not the lowest sale price. Let's check C. Store R has the lowest sale price of $21. Is that true? No. Because $4 off is not the cheapest. It's not the lowest sale price. D, store K has the lowest sale price of $18.75. Is that true? Yes, because the total price was $25. And if I subtract that 625, right, we get 1875. Remember, when you're finding a fraction of a number, it's the same thing as doing percents. You're just multiplying. Next up, sales tax. Tony bought these items for an art project. The sales tax is 8.5%. What is the total cost including tax rounded to the nearest cent? I can tell you guys, the biggest mistakes that students made in the Quizlet Live yesterday is they did the math right, but they didn't see this important thing that said, what is the total cost including tax? What you guys did, a lot of you, is you fell for the trick and you found out how much the tax was, but you didn't find out what the total cost including the tax was. And that was the biggest mistake that each class made, not just you guys, right? So what do we have to do here before we can figure out the total or how much the cost is going to be including tax? What's the first step? What's the simple thing to do here first? We got to add all these up, right? So 9, 18, 10, 15, 20, 29, 3, 2, 10, 18, 24, 29, 3. So the total without tax is $39.98. So that's our subtotal. Now what do we need to do? We're going to have to multiply by the 8.5%. But before we can multiply 8.5%, what do we have to do to it? Dr. Pepper, convert it to a decimal. We're going to go 1, 2 spaces to the left. That becomes 0.085. Now, I'm going to do it on my calculator just to save time, because my mental math skills are not that great. This ends up being 33983. Now, we talked about multiplying decimals. We do not have to line them up. But what we do have to do is we have to count the number of decimal places. So there's 1, 2 decimal places here. There's 1, 2, 3, which means in our answer there's going to be 5. 1, 2, 3. Actually, there was a 0 here that I didn't include. So the amount of tax is $3.39. Or we're going to round this by this 8. It becomes $3.40. What does this $3.40 do to our total cost? It increases it. So now we're going to add this back on to the regular price of $39.98 plus $3.40. $43.38. Do we have that there? Answer is J. This is probably going to be the last one that we get to. All right. This is number 5. The table shows a monthly budget of expenses for a family of 4. Which equation can be used to determine X, the minimum amount of money the family must earn to meet the requirements of this budget for 1 year? Now, you guys have 2 problems that I want you to locate, because you guys are going to have to finish these on your own for homework. Locate the problems number 11 and 12. They're like in small print. Does everybody see those? We're going to do those real quickly, and then we're going to come back to it. Now, if your total household budget is $6,480, remember we talked about household budgets and how this includes all of your expenses, your rent, your utilities, water, light, gas, transportation. It includes all of that. And then it shows how many hours you worked. And the way that we're going to figure out how how much you need to earn per hour is we're just going to divide. So you're going to divide the budget, which was 6,480, divided by 160. You're going to do the division. I'm not going to do the division right now. Again, number 12. They give you the budget, and you need to figure out what your hourly wage needs to be, meaning how much you're going to get paid in your job per hour in order to cover your budget of $3,250. You're going to divide. Which means we're going to go back to this problem and we're going to see how it relates. So in this problem, we have to figure out the monthly total. Add it up if you haven't already. You have to determine the monthly total. I'm going to use my calculator. Use your brains at the same time.
Brain power.
If we add them all up, it ends up being $4,110. And then I just told you how you're going to determine how many hours you need to work. So it says, which equation can be used to determine the minimum amount of money the family must earn to meet the requirements of this budget for 1 year? This is their monthly budget, meaning they're going to need $4,110 per year. How are we going to determine how much money that they need to make the minimum amount for 1 year? So let's go through A. 12 times 4,010. Does this seem like a good answer choice? They're saying 12 months times $4,110 a month. Does that sound like a good answer choice? Yes. Let's put a check by it. I'm giving you testing strategies, so you should go through each one. If you feel like it's a good one, check it or leave it alone. If it's a bad one, cross it out. 4,010 divided by 7. Tell me why they'd probably be dividing by 7. There's 7 days in a week. Are we doing anything about weeks here? No. So I'll cross it out. C. 4,110 divided by 52. Why would they divide by 52? Think about 52 as it relates to time and days and months and weeks and years.
You can't because. Wait.
Well, there's 52 weeks in a year. Are we trying to find out per week? No.
It's per month.
Right? And then they multiplied 4 times 4,110. Now, what they're trying to trick you on there is, they're trying to, what do you think the 4 represents here? 4 weeks in a month. Is this the weekly budget?
No.
It's the monthly budget. So don't be fooled by that, right? So the answer should have been A. 12 months times $4,110 a month would give you how much you're making for the year. Now, there's one I didn't get to go over, but I want to just tell you how you're going to do it when you see it on the test. It is number 25. Find number 25 quickly, because you're going to see a problem just like this. We have 1 minute left. Now it says the table shows Gillian's net worth. Assets are shown as positive numbers, and liabilities are shown as negative numbers. Gillian's net worth is $90,500 based on the info in the table. Stop putting away. What is the amount of Gillian owes for student loans? You're going to add up all the negatives. That's going to give you the liabilities. You're going to add up all the positives. That's going to give you her total assets. You're going to find out what are the total assets minus the total liabilities for this table. And then what you're going to do is after that, you're going to find the difference between that net worth and the net worth that they gave you. There's going to be a problem exactly like this on the test tomorrow, I promise you. If you go home and do it, or you come to tutoring and get help, you're going to ace it. I pretty much showed you all the problems that are going to be on the test. You're going to do amazing tomorrow. May the force be with you.